Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Thank you for your support on Patreon. Disrespectfully classy, Mark E. Blasey. Two man mountains tear the house down, a new #1 contender is crowned, and Walter kicks the face off Kushida. Yes, it's NXT again. I'm Laurie Blake, and if you haven't already, why don't you subscribe to WrestleTalk, because there has never been a better time. Wrestling is about to go completely crazy in the next week with AEW starting weekly TV, and we will be covering that, plus all of the usual WWE shows, pay-per-views, and news from around the wrestling world. So support WrestleTalk, give us a subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you never miss an episode. And while you're clicking around, why don't you click the eye above my head right now to give your ratings on this week's NXT show, where you can choose from an EST NXT, undisputedly good, the finest, 2 out of 5 live, and the bottom rating, the worst of the worst, Cameron Grimes' hat, as I review the September 25th episode of NXT with limited commercial interruption. The show opened with a recap of last week's episode, showing off just how good the matches were, while Triple H attempts to brainwash us all by repeating, "We are NXT," over and over and over again. But you know what? I would kind of like a glass of that Kool-Aid, thank you very much. The Undisputed Era then appear on a special balcony to hype up the first contest. Thankfully, this match between Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic actually needed no hyping, because the two the pair have had before on NXT were absolutely standout bouts. And this joined those great clashes of titans as another stellar epic. The premise of the Lee Dijakovic match is very simple. Two big dudes have a cruiserweight match. It is genius. And they did a top rope Canadian destroyer, so give this NXT the top rating already, will you? Just give it that already. Lee also finally gained some momentum too, looking like an unstoppable powerhouse who could basically bounce back from anything thrown at him, and also do a sort of deadlift Undertaker sit-up spot too, which Lee then turned into a limit breaker, and he picked up the win. Which means it's one apiece in the series, which means we have to have a decider. We then got a recap of Matt Riddle and Killian Dane's non-starter street fight, and Big Willie Regal stating last week, "You are very, very naughty. I'm very, very cross with you. Have a main event spot next week and also a title opportunity, why don't you?" We then got to see Matt Riddle warming up in an alleyway, which also seemed to be the smoking area for a prom. Weird. Then a quick Street Profits promo hyped the fact that the lads will take on the Undisputed Era next week. Then an emotional Dakota Kai returned with new Calvin Kick ring gear to take on Tainara, formerly Tainara Conti. More like Conti, keep my surname please. This was a quick little match with Tainara getting a few vicious moves in, but mostly Kai putting the surgically repaired knee to good use and kicking the judoka's face off. Kai finished the whole thing off with a modified go-to sleep, which she's calling the go-to kick. The go-to kick. More like get a fuck. The angel Kathy Kelly then descended from heaven with a message that Kushida and 2 mystery partners, will face Imperium on the second half of NXT on NXT WWE Network. NXT WWE. She flubbed her lines. Then it was time for Riddle versus Dane, and things started off very wrestling before it all broke down outside the ring. The match then became a lot of fun, with Dane screaming about Riddle being a UFC fighter, Riddle putting Dane through a table, kendo sticks, Vader bombs, a flash knee chair shot, and then Riddle finally finishes things off with a hyper-extending Fujiwara armbar, forcing Dane to tap out and earning himself a shot at Adam Cole on next week's NXT. Cole then runs down with his belt to gloat over the hurting Riddle and earns himself his own Fujiwara armbar for his troubles, which forces the rest of the Era out to make the save, leading us into the second half of the show. And it was Rhea Ripley who opened Hour 2 in the person from NXT UK who works here now spot that Pete Dunne had last week. She took on Caden Carter, the former Lacey Lane, who got a really good showing, busting out some incredible ranas, but ultimately running down to the Riptide and being taken away to the dark side by Ripley. Basically, another momentum-building win for Ripley. Speaking of momentum, it was sucked right out of the room as Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan took on the team of Chase Parker and Matt Martell, the newly dubbed Everrise, which sounds like a brand name flower or dick pills. This match was one long, hard, standing to sorry, I'm stuck on the dick pills thing. It was a drag. It was one long hot tag spot with Ever Rise beating down Oni Lorcan. Burch then eventually gets that hot tag and sort of nuts his way through the team before summoning Oni Lorcan back to life like he's one of Rita Repulsa's monsters. I mean, that one bit was really fun, but the length of the match overall just killed the crowd completely. We then caught a really quick glimpse of Deonna Purrazzo and Chelsea Green in the crowd, and I'm personally looking forward to Miss Chicken Wing and the Hot Mess making a proper debut. Next up, Raul Mendoza put a valiant effort in against Cameron Grimes, gaining a bit of a babyface backing from the crowd before being crushed by the leaping double stomp. It was a fine match, but everyone was just flat from the tag match still. We also got this really weird lingering shot of Cameron Grimes' hat on the ring post at the beginning. What's going on with this hat? There's a wider mystery here. To cap things off, Kushida took on Imperium with the help of top secret mystery partners, Breezango. I'm sorry, but this was built like it was an exciting surprise, and after last week with all the crazy debuts, I imagine it could have been someone big, but Breezango in the full Fashion Police get up. I mean, is this NXT or is it a hen party? I completely understand the choice behind them to sort of counter Imperium's sacred ring thing, but Breezango are desperately needing a change of gimmick. Anyway, this match basically replayed the tag one from earlier, but this time it was Breeze suffering the beatdown, which didn't do much to really bring the crowd back round. And yes, the inevitable hot tag follows, and Fandango clears house before letting Kushi come in to do some flippity-doos and sort of steal the whole thing with a roll-up. Great. Well worth my time. And it's a shame because considering what everyone in this match is capable of, this was really quite bland. But it did lead to a finale in which Walter just appears from backstage and straight up kicks Kushi's face off, leaving Imperium posing to close out the show. And I am all in for Kushida versus Walter, but honestly, this match just didn't do it for me. So again, this week's NXT show was a game of two halves, weirdly falling foul of that channel split in the worst way by having the USA hour as NXT of the finest vintage, but the second hour just dragged with pretty boring matches and very little of actual consequence happening. So with all of that said, I think this week's NXT was just finest. So over to Ollie now with the news.
NXT has been very fun these last 2 weeks since moving to the USA Network, but it's next Wednesday's episode that really matters, because the prologue is going to be over and the Wednesday night wars truly begin, with NXT going a full 2 hours on USA up against the first ever episode of AEW Dynamite live on TNT. I just wish we could watch it over here in the UK just as easily. All Elite Wrestling have continued to load up their real season premiere by adding the match that was supposed to happen back at May's Double or Nothing show, Hangman Page versus Pac. This joins the debut episode's other big matches of Nyla Rose versus Rio to crown the first ever AEW Women's Champion, and the Elite of Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks taking on Chris Jericho and 2 multi-time WWE Champion vacants. CM Punk to AEW confirmed. Twice. Unfortunately though, after having most of the year to get ready, AEW's launch on TV has suffered controversy this week. Firstly, from one half of that inaugural AEW Women's Championship match, Nyla Rose. As a transgender wrestler, Nyla is unfortunately subject to trolling comments online. It's difficult to always turn the other cheek to such hateful comments, but in an incident this week, she reacted by essentially making fun of paedophilia, replying to a troll in a since-deleted tweet, "Ah, you want attention, hun? What's wrong, baby? Mummy not hug you enough? Did Daddy Mouth touch you in the no-no place?" Sinking to the trolls level isn't the best look for AEW, and Nyla quickly tweeted an apology for not considering the people that it could affect and hurt, with the caption, "My constant goal is to be better than I was the day before. Today is no exception." But most concerning ahead of their big TV launch is how AEW Dynamite will air in thetheir second biggest market. A large part of Tony Khan's fans! Master plan for AEW is the focus on the UK fan base. Yay! Which is traditionally WWE's second biggest market after the US. This took the form in a pay-per-view deal with ITV, where AEW events have been available on their box office service this year. As a result, it was assumed Dynamite would eventually end up on one of ITV's channels as a free-to-air show in the UK. And that is what's happened, just not in the way anyone would want it to. Just a week away from the show's debut, which is cutting it very fine and implies negotiations have gone up to almost the last minute, ITV announced. ITV is to show brand new weekly wrestling show AEW Dynamite on free-to-air television from next month. The run will start with the full 2-hour show on ITV4 on Sunday, the 6th of October at 8:20 in the morning, followed by a 1-hour highlights program on ITV from Monday the 7th of October at 12:45. Fans reacted furiously to the news, calling it disgusting that the UK will have to wait 4 days after it airs in the US, pointing out that AEW will now have worse time slots than MLW and Impact Wrestling, and that most people will just watch it illegally. It's even more problematic considering Cody Rhodes said this week that Dynamite will be TV-14 rated, implying the first and only full-length UK broadcast will be heavily censored as it goes out at 8:20 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And with AEW pay-per-views happening on Saturdays, that also means the UK won't get the go-home show until after the pay-per-view has aired. A follow-up tweet from ITV hinted the schedule could be revised following November 9th's Full Gear show, again implying this deal was a rush job to get Dynamite a deal before it debuted in the States, which led Tony Khan to make another announcement. We'll work together to ensure there will always be a free-to-air broadcast of the most recent episode of AEW Dynamite before Saturday's pay-per-views, including Full Gear. We'll also be announcing a live viewing solution soon for the UK and many other countries with great AEW fans. Thank you. That live viewing solution for the UK comes in the form of their international pay-per-view provider Fight TV, who have announced a new AEW Plus global subscription which lets fans in the UK, Australia, Japan, Ireland, Italy, Spain, the Middle East, Chile and Brazil watch Dynamite live as it airs in the US and replay access after. Dave Meltzer has since revealed on Wrestling Observer Radio that the ITV deal had changed considerably in just the last few days. I was getting stuff from people in the advertising community in the UK saying the deal's done and it was going to be airing 3 times a week, and it was going to be live on Wednesday, Friday night in a good time slot, and the Sunday morning time slot. Apparently the reason the live Wednesday night broadcast was scrapped was because TNT and ITV4 could not come to an agreement on how to handle the commercials, as advertising laws are stricter in the UK, with the regulatory body Ofcom only allowing 12 minutes of commercials an hour as opposed to TNT's planned 16. Funnily enough, that used to be my job, taking live US sports broadcasts and making sure they adhered to Ofcom regulations, which is an easy fix of running extra channel promos and filler content that doesn't count towards the 12-minute limit. So I personally don't buy into that reason, and it also doesn't explain why the planned Friday night AEW slot was dropped too. While international TV deals of this magnitude are very difficult to pull off, and AEW have found an online fix with the Fight TV subscription, this can be considered a significant setback to the new promotion's global strategy, a big part of which was introducing new casual wrestling fans in the UK to their product, whereas now that reach will be severely limited and mostly targeted at their existing fans online. Hopefully this is just a short-term fix that will have better scheduling after the Full Gear pay-per-view. Has there been a backstage clash between Paul Heyman and SmackDown over Bray Wyatt's The Fiend? Find out by clicking the video on the right. And RIP SmackDown Live. Watch our review of the last ever USA Network episode by clicking the video below that. I've been Oli Davies, and that was wrestling.